top radio station.
Join the conversation with Zimbabwe's top personalities.
Subscribe now for fresh and infotainment content daily.
Capital 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat. No other, as we shine a spotlight on the dynamic and inspiring young farmers in the heartland of Zimbabwe.
To do it because plants will die, plants will get infected by diseases.
I tried to do mixed farming, that is also putting tomatoes. I have half a hectare of tomatoes.
Every 40 days it has to be giving birth. Produce a good quality fruit size.
Calves are kept in different pens, basically so that they don't spread diseases to each other.
My name is Tariwa Sibauke. I'm a rabbit farmer.
These young farmers are revolutionizing traditional practices, embracing technology, and finding sustainable solutions that will shape the future of agriculture. So, let's get our hands dirty.
This is The Mint live on ZTN Prime, your sneak peek into the world of business, finance and economies. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Let's get started. Coming up, Finance and Investment Promotion Minister Professor Mthuli today led a Zimbabwean delegation in Belarus on a business roundtable to explore new opportunities between the two countries. Professor Ncube is part of President Emmerson Mnangagwa's delegation on a 4-day state visit to Minsk. The Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce is urging the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe to inject more local currency in the economy. Recently, the industry representative group sat down with RBZ Governor Dr. John Mushayavanu to iron out issues that are impacting business. A call has been made for stakeholders in the agriculture sector to take into account the various developmental projects being spearheaded by the private sector for collaborative initiatives. The setting up of a multi-million-dollar cement plant project on the outskirts of Magunje Growth Point by YZM this week led a Zimbabwean delegation to Benin on a visit meant to explore areas around agro-industry at the Glo-Jibe Industrial Zone. Victoria Falls Stock Exchange listed gold producer Caledonia Mining Corporation recorded an exceptional increase in gold production and revenue during the first quarter of 2025, with gross profit nearly doubling. Its May 7 meeting warned that America is facing an increased risk of stagflation, a scenario in which the economy slows or contracts while inflation shoots up because of hefty tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump from April 2nd. That's according to a report by the CNBC. Of course, we take a look at these stories in detail here on The Mint. The Mint will be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Mint as we come to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now we take a look at our stories in detail. Finance and Investment Promotion Minister Professor Mthuli today led a Zimbabwean delegation in Belarus on a business roundtable to explore new opportunities between the two countries. Professor Ncube is part of President Emmerson Mnangagwa's delegation on a 4-day state visit to Minsk. Addressing the media after the high-level meeting, Professor Ncube said focus was on scientific economic cooperation.
Certainly we want to improve trade. What's happening on the trade front? We should be able to push towards establishing trading warehouses in Belarus and also in Zimbabwe to promote trade between the two countries, but also to promote investment. The one good thing is that Belarus has got the Belarusian Development Bank, which is providing export finance to Belarusian companies that may wish to establish in Zimbabwe or trade in Zimbabwe. So this already is creating a wonderful opportunity in terms of financial support and foreign into Zimbabwe. But we will explore more areas. For example, as you know, we're strong in the area of horticulture. At least that is moving up in the world. Flower industry, blueberries, avocado, and our coffee is also very special.
Meanwhile, Information Minister Jenfan Muswere, who is also part of the delegation, said the visit is meant to consolidate cooperation in the agricultural sector towards achieving food security.
The visit also focuses on how best we can deepen our economic and international relations. The transformation of the agricultural sector, which also includes the post-harvest implementation modalities in order to also achieve food security.
Now, the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce is urging the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe to inject more local currency in the economy. Recently, the industry representative group sat down with RBZ Governor Dr. John Mushayavanu to iron out issues that are impacting business. One of the issues raised was about tight liquidity. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor Dr. John Mushayavanu says there isn't such, but cash that is circulating among the few banks and them lending conservatively happens to be the issue. The Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce says the local currency scarcity is affecting business transactions.
From a Chamber of Commerce position, we still believe the ZiG availability in the economy is still very thin, to the extent that the local currency had become a currency for change more than for trading in the economy. I think what is refreshing is we had a candid conversation where the central bank promised to look at some of the issues, but also it ordered business not to be crybabies. But for businesses, the issue of the cost of funds, they're still too high. There's ZiG liquidity, there's no money in the economy. Then you look at the surrender requirements. Chamber of Commerce is pushing for about 25% from the current 30%, knowing fully well that most of the exporters in the economy, they are suffering from electricity challenges, exchange rate volatility for a better part of last year.
There were other issues that were also raised by the industry representative.
We also spoke into the level of informality in the economy and how it is a tax to the economy. We then also moved to look at the surrender requirements, especially for exporters. We've been complaining that the surrender requirements are too steep for them to continue in business in that way. And lastly, the issue of the exchange rate itself, there's still worry, there's still concern regarding the gap between the official and the paro market rate. And it had been giving room and becoming a haven for arbitrage and speculation, especially for those who are not honoring the tax obligations within the economy. And what is so refreshing definitely is that the central bank governor himself, he acknowledged some of the challenges in the economy, save for the issue of liquidity.
Now, a call has been made for stakeholders in the agriculture sector to take into account the various developmental projects being spearheaded by the private sector for collaborative initiatives. This was said by Agriculture Permanent Secretary Professor Opet Jiri during a National Development Strategy 1 Food Security and Nutrition Thematic Working Group meeting recently in the capital. The meeting saw government outline certain key issues within the economy, and land ministries and parastatals exchanging ideas on how the set targets of the NDS1 can be speeded up and met before the period of the economic blueprint lapse.
We need to also look at what the private sector is doing is very critical. For boreholes, for example, there are a lot of development partners who are doing boreholes and nutrition gardens. I'm told that there could be as much as 3,500 nutrition gardens done by our development partners out there. But our government system doesn't report them. They report the village business units, 478. But what is the difference between the two? It's just because this one was done by the private, the development partner, and that one is done by government. So the agri-tax officer reports what was done by government in their report, because that's their employer. They don't want to report these other things, or they will never count something at a school. Yet these are critical aspects in the projects that if we do a village business unit or a nutrition garden or a school business unit in a community, that will support the entire community. We won't put one and say this one was done by UNDP, therefore water from there, don't drink it. Only drink water from government and so forth. So we also had a tough time trying to get development partner projects, reports in our, when we were doing the
well, of course, the big question is whether the NDS-1 targets will be attained. What we do know is that the NDS-2, which is the nation's economic blueprint, is expected to be rolled out and carry the country between 2026 and 2030. Time to take a breather. After the break, we continue with our business stories. The minute to be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoilt.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
That guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play.
The one story where you can't get out of your head. Wakatarisa munhu so Erika like where you are sitting. Nozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako yo afro chakuti ndo music manje no Zimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so Shona kana kuti Chindevere kana mumwe mutaure muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe. Ndiwo rupawo rwako. Ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erika Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
In a land where traditions run deep, where the soil holds the secrets of generations, and where dreams are sown alongside seeds, a new generation emerges. Welcome to Young Seeds. Get ready to embark on a journey like no other as we shine a spotlight on the dynamic and inspiring young farmers in the heartland of Zimbabwe.
To do it because plants will die, plants will get infected by diseases.
I tried to do mixed farming. That is also putting tomatoes. I have half a hectare of tomatoes.
Every 40 days, it has to be giving birth. Produce a good quality fruit size.
Calves are kept in different pens, basically so that they don't spread diseases to each other.
My name is Bankman-fried. I'm a rabbit farmer.
These young farmers are revolutionizing traditional practices, embracing technology, and finding sustainable solutions that will shape the future of agriculture. So, let's get our hands dirty.
Welcome back to The Mint. We're broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now, the setting up of a multi-million-dollar cement plant project on the outskirts of Magunje Growth Point by YZIM, a Chinese company, is progressing well ahead of its commissioning expected in June next year. Zim Papers Mashonaland West Bureau filed the following story.
Site levelling works have so far been completed, with facilities connected to the national grid. The company has taken delivery of construction materials with preliminary work to set up the plant, taking progress at the site to 20%.
Everything is now in place. Besides the plant, pachanda chi, pachanda mabomis, ne pachanda clinker, avepo is ready. Eleko zvinozi takutarisira kuti takutangawo zvakare kugadzira ma-bricks anova iyo futi achiyashandisa panapa.
YZIM is optimistic that this will be able to give back to the community upon completion.
Tiri kutarisira zvakare kuti by next year around May pange vachatanga takuita matest run yeplant yedu inofanira kunge yapera by May 2026. Then commissioning tiri kutarisira by June. Tofanira kunge tapedza this whole plant, takuproduce cement, takutotanga kutengesa, uyewo imwe yacho tange tichitodonata pachapedza kugadzira plant, kudonata kune maschools nenharaunda yese ino kuti vaone kuti cement yedu inenge yakasimba sei.
And at the moment, 50 youths are a part of the project, and YZIM will be recruiting another 100 by the end of May. This has addressed unemployment in the community.
But almost 98% my employers, they muno mafunde Zimbabwe. Vana vambuya nehanda, mutapa, nyakasikana nakaguvi. Vambo benefito vana vachaminuka. Tatanzwa nekutambura kuno kumakore-kore. Asi ndikufara zvisingaite kuti zvaitikawo kuhurungwe.
Kunoda kupa kutenda kukuru iye zvinezvi tine vana vamwe vatova pano ready kana tisina kukanganisa vanotosvika kana kuma-20 pabasa vari kutosenza. Vamwe vaitinetsa nokunwa madoro nokudidi nokuputa zvinodhaka. Ndiri kufara chaizvo kuti iko zvinezvi hapachisina zvinhu zvakadaro. Ende zvatipowo mukana wekuti vana vedu vauye kuno kuzosenza pano.
This includes young women.
Kambani akauya tikaona kubata-bata sevanhu vechikadzi taugona kusimudzirana tichidetserana zvofamba zvakanaka.
With accommodation now in place, small businesses in the community have been boosted.
The business remu community ra boost. Netwa kuma vari kushanda panapa. Vari kutenga ma vegetables pa irrigation padhuze, vari kutenga fish pa dam apa dzichinji patwa nema youth. Also business generally rangukura.
Quite a positive development there taking place within Mashonaland West province. Of course, the big issue there would be how it is that Zimbabwe can get to beneficiate or add value to its resources that it produces and of course get to make more out of its country's, of course, resources. Now, Deputy Minister of Agriculture Evangelis Haritotos this week led a Zimbabwean delegation to Benin on a visit meant to explore areas around agro-industry at the Glo-Jib industrial zone. The Ministry of Agriculture, in partnership with Arise and Afreximbank, is spearheading the Export Agriculture on Food Security initiative to bolster food security and boost export capacity.
Strong, about 80% of the economy is based on cotton. So we're here in this beautiful country trying to learn from the farmers, discussing with the farmers to see what they're doing well with, the government's doing well with their farmers, so that we can also share ideas and see what COTCO can do to improve relations with the farmers, whether it's agronomy, whether it's input supply, whatever we can find out. And then if that's not enough, we're now looking at how they are pushing that into the industry itself. The value addition, the lint, the cloth.
The mission is pivotal for extracting critical insights into operational excellence, stakeholder synergy, and industrial scalability. The visit not only refines domestic strategy but also forges international cooperation pathways.
We would also be keen on looking and talking and discussing with companies like that to see how at an advanced stage in a few years from now, how we can also produce and export to the US, to the EU, to the UK, to the Middle East, as well as to countries far like China. And we believe that our cotton, the quality is fantastic, that we, through our agronomy, that we can continue to improve the quality of our cotton.
Now, Victoria Falls Stock Exchange listed gold producer Caledonia Mining Corporation recorded an exceptional increase in gold production and revenue during the first quarter of 2025, with gross profit nearly doubling. During the quarter to March 2025, Caledonia recorded $56.2 million worth of gold revenue, $26.9 million worth of gross profit, and $11.8 million contributing to the Zimbabwean government in the form of royalties and taxes, while of course in a mouth-watering development. The company said gold production at its Zimbabwean operations, Blanket Mine and Bilboes Oxides Mine, stood at 19,000 ounces during the quarter compared to 17,000 ounces recorded in the same period last year. Production guidance at Blanket Mine for 2025 reaffirmed 74,000 to 78,000 ounces of gold. Caledonia has delivered an exceptional first quarter, with gold production up 9.3% and gross profit nearly doubling to $27 million. This strong performance is attributed to operational resilience and ability to capitalize on favorable gold prices. Recently, Caledonia sold its 12.2 megawatt solar power plant for $22.3 million, unlocking a profit of $14.3 million. The sale, completed on April 11 to Cross Boundary Energy, strengthens Caledonia's cash position and allows the company to redirect capital towards its core gold mining operations and strategic expansion in Zimbabwe. The successful completion of the solar plant sale for $22.3 million has significantly strengthened the balance sheet, positioning the firm well to accelerate the growth plans at Bilboes and Motapa, whilst investing to achieve operational improvements and efficiencies at Blanket Mine. Blanket Mine produced 18,000 ounces of gold in the first quarter, a 9.5% increase from 17,000 ounces in the same period of 2024. The company said the improved performance was driven by higher milled tonnage, which offset slightly lower grades. The mine remains on track to achieve its 2025 production guidance. Also, 435 ounces of gold were produced from the Bilboes Oxide Mine in the quarter. Work continues on finalizing the Bilboes project's feasibility study, focusing on optimizing the economics in response to updated capital cost projections. Now, following encouraging results from drilling at Motapa in 2024, Caledonia has launched a $2.8 million exploration program for 2025, targeting both sulfide and oxide resources. Meanwhile, Caledonia has announced that the board of directors has approved a quarterly dividend of 14 United States cents on each of the company's shares. Caledonia's strategy to maximize shareholder value includes a quarterly dividend policy, which the board adopted in 2014. And just as a caveat, when you look at the cash flow statement for Caledonia, you'd notice that they have a cash flow deficit of $4 million, which despite having improved from a negative $14 million in the comparative period of 2024, it would not be advisable to be declaring a dividend at this point, just given how their cash flow position is very much in the negative. Hence, that particular statement there that says this dividend declaration is in line with a dividend policy that was adopted way back in 2014. This is why they've had to qualify why they are declaring a dividend when their cash flows are actually very much in the negative. Now, the U.S. Federal Reserve at its May 7 meeting warned that America is facing an increased risk of stagflation, a scenario in which the economy slows or contracts while inflation shoots up because of hefty tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump from April 2nd. Inflation data released yesterday, however, showed that prices haven't grown hotter yet. In fact, the annual reading came in lower than expected, and the core figure, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, was also less than forecast for the month. Admittedly, the data only captures a month after Trump tariffs were introduced. The rush of imports in the beginning of the year, which was a big part of why U.S. gross domestic product fell in the first quarter, could have dampened price increases. Businesses might have also been swallowing the taxes, but with the pause of reciprocal tariffs, a trade deal with the UK, and an agreement with China to temporarily slash three-digit duties, beg your pardon, all of which will suppress price hikes and keep the American consumer, the bedrock of the U.S. economy, happy. The threat of stagflation seems to be diminished for now. The U.S. Consumer Price Index rose a seasonally adjusted 0.2% in April, putting the 12-month inflation rate at 2.3%, its lowest since February 2021, the Bureau of Labor Statistics said. Annual inflation was lower than the 2.4% core CPI also increased 0.2% for the month, while the year-on-year level was 2.8%. The forecast was for 0.3% and 2.8% respectively. On Tuesday, the S&P 500 rose 0.72%, putting it around 0.1% in the green for 2025. The Nasdaq Composite added 1.61%, lifted by Nvidia's 0.6% jump on the news of the company sending 18,000 advanced chips to Saudi Arabia. However, the Dow Jones Industrial Average shed 0.64% after a nearly 18% drop in shares of United Health pressured that particular benchmark. U.S. President Donald Trump is in Saudi Arabia for the first diplomatic trip of his second term. At the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum in Riyadh on Tuesday, Trump announced they will remove all sanctions on Syria. The country has been designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terrorism since 1979. Trump also announced at the same event that Saudi Arabia will be investing $600 billion in the United States in a series of deals. Well, of course, quite a flurry of activity there in the United States of America. It remains to be seen just how things will progress in their engagements with Saudi Arabia. Well, that's a wrap on The Mint today. Do follow us on our social media handles at Zimpapers TV Network as well as at ZTN Prime. Your views and your thoughts are important to us. Remember to catch us every weekday at 2 p.m. Central African Time for the juiciest business stories in Zimbabwe, on the continent, as well as beyond. I'm Ibn Mabunda, the money man. Let them do what they do. When we do what we do, we mean business. Thank you for watching and have a good day.